So if you saw something like this on the test and I said simplify, are we doing properties of exponents since it's all just, there's no addition signs in here, there's no subtraction signs, isn't it just multiplication? So if you saw something like this on the test, you would say to yourself, it's properties of exponents. Now I know that 3 times AB cubed, even though it looks connected, isn't connected, right? That's just 3 times A times B cubed times 2, negative 2 times A to the 4th times B to the 5th. So we can reorder it in any order since it's all multiplication. So I'm going to put numbers by each other. 3 times negative 2. I'm going to cross them out so I don't miss anything. I have an A to the what power? First, right? Then times A to the negative 4. And then I have B to the 3rd times B to the 5th, right? Reorder it, guys. Then simplify it. We do not add these numbers. Our multiplication is multiplication, right? So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. When you multiply the same base, you add your exponents, right? When you multiply, you add, right? When you divide, then you subtract. Raise a power to a power, and you
multiply.
All right, yeah.
I get excited.
These guys aren't very. So we have 1 plus negative 4, which is A to the negative 3, correct? When you multiply the b's, we add our exponents, so we have b to the 8. Now you look at it and say, okay, that is my answer. However, I can't have negative exponents. I can, I'm going to say it again, I can have negative numbers. This is negative 6 to the positive 1. That is not a negative exponent. That stays where it is, correct? But we have a to the negative 3, so we draw our line, flip it over a fraction. Won't that be a to the positive 3 on bottom? Don't flip it and write negative. That'd be wrong. We flipped it to make it positive. So we have negative 6 on top, b to the 8, all over a to the 3rd. Does everybody feel good about that problem? No questions? Okay. Here we go. Properties of exponents, correct? Raise a power to a power and you multiply the powers. Do not do 2 times 3. That's wrong. This is 2 to the 1st power. We multiply the powers, not the base. So we have 2 to the 1 times 3, which is 3. And then x to the negative 3 times 3 is negative 9, correct? 2 to the 3rd is 2 times 2 times 2. In your calculator, you could do it, or you could just say that's 8. So we really have 8x to the negative 9. Don't we flip bases with a negative exponent over a fraction? That's going to flip down here. Don't write negative 9. It's now positive 9. 8 over x to the positive 9. Does everybody feel good about that? When you see it on the test, you're going to do good. Okay. Looking at this one, when you divide, then you subtract, but not with numbers, correct? Numbers, you just simplify. 7 over 49. Don't they both divide by 7? So 7 divided by 7 becomes a 1. 49 divides by 7 and becomes a 7. Okay. When you divide, then you subtract. You always subtract the top from the bottom. So that's 1 minus, okay, I'm going to go off to the side. It's 1, the top, minus the bottom, which is, if you go off to the side like this, it will help you not miss it. Won't that become 1 plus 3? Which is 4. So we have x to the, so I'm going to draw my line. I have a 1 on top, a 7 on bottom. We have x to the 4th, correct? Then I'm going to do 2, the top, minus the bottom, which is negative 2, correct? We always write that on top right now. So everybody see how I did my y's? Now we would say, okay, do we have any negative negative exponents that we need to flip over a fraction? So y squared on bottom. 1 times x to the 4th is just x to the 4th on top. On bottom we have a 7 and a y squared. Everybody feel good about that problem? You're going to see one like that on the test. Okay, what's any base raised to the 0 power? Is it the base to the 1st? No, it's the whole thing becomes a 1, correct? So what about this? 1,000 xyz to the 0. Is all of it raised to the 0? Isn't all of this stuff raised to the 0 power? So what does it become? 1. Okay, on the test, I'll say simplify. We would say to ourselves, oh yeah, I remember I've got to break this down into a factor tree. Okay, so what multiplies to be 64? 8 times 8, correct? 8 breaks down into 4 times 2. 8 breaks down into 2 times 4. 4 breaks down into 2 times 2. 4 breaks down into 2 times 2. Then I'm going to, on the test especially, not double dip. I'm going to say, okay, 8's not there anymore. I rewrote it as 2 times 4. I'm going to cross it out. 8's not there anymore. I rewrote it as 4 times 2. 4's not there anymore. I rewrote it as 2 times 2. And 4's not there anymore. I rewrote it as 2 times 2. Is everybody good with that? Now we pull out groups of 2 since it's a square root. So we can pull out a 2, and a 2. Is there anything left? Nope, so the house went away, right? And then we also can't forget the square root of a -1 is I. So we pull out a 2 times 2 times 2 times I. So our answer is 8I. Don't write it under the square root. Wasn't the square root gone? Does everybody understand? You're not going to miss it on the test. Okay. Let's break down 98. So factors of 98, you could take your calculator, do 98 divided by 2. If that didn't work, try 98 divided by 3. Does everybody understand how to check? So 98 divided by 2 is 49 times 2. 49 breaks down into 7 times 7. So now we've broken this down. When we pull out a 7, when we pull out an I, then left was the 2. So 7 and I were on the outside of the house because they left the house. Left under the house was a 2. Does everybody feel good? You're not going to miss it on the test. Okay, next one. Simplify. You have to say to yourself, what am I doing here? I have this complex number plus this complex number. Do we multiply addition? No. Combine real parts with real parts, imaginary with imaginary. 3 plus 2. 5. -1I plus 4 i's is how many i's? Positive 3 i's? Plus 3 i's. We're all good? A plus bi. Okay, on the next part on the test. We have a subtraction problem. Oh, you should say to yourself, oh, red flag. With subtraction, we write in our -1, correct? And distribute that through to both terms over here. So -1 times -3 is +3, right? -1 times +4i is -4i. Now we've distributed the -3 to all this stuff. We don't distribute it right here. There's not a negative in front. So now we can just drop these down. 2 minus 3i. Does everybody understand? Combine real parts with real parts, imaginary with imaginary. Very careful. This is +2. +2 plus 3. 5. This is -3i minus 4i. Don't say 1, just because there's a 3 and 4. Think about it. -3 minus 4 more. -7. Just I, right? Okay, on the test, if you saw something like this, what would we do? Oh, it's multiplication, correct? Then we need to double distribute. Okay, watch carefully. This is one of the most missed problems. So we're going to write in as we go, we're not going to just draw in arrows, so we don't miss anything. 2 times -3. Do it just like this on the test. Exactly how I'm doing it. 2 times -3. -6. I'm not going to draw in my arrow until I've done that. Okay. 2 times +2i's. What is it? +4i's, correct? +4i's. Now I'm going to draw in this one. +I times -3. -3i's. Now this is where most people mess it up. +1i times +2i's. +2, and then we had an I times I, which is I squared, correct? On the test, you'd say, I remember that I squared equals -1. So we really have +2 times -1. Isn't that -2? Guys? So those aren't there anymore. We simplify them. Now real parts with real parts, imaginary with imaginary. -6 plus -2 is -8. 4i's minus 3i's is +1i's, so plus I. Everybody feel good. Do not forget on that last distribution, it's I squared. Now, careful, do not multiply something that's addition. Addition versus multiplication. Okay, are we all good with that? On test, we're not going to royally miss that. Okay, looking at this one, is it okay for me to say I just square that, square that? 4 squared plus 2i squared. Can I do that? No, that's breaking the most forbidden of all forbidden math rules. We know we have to rewrite that as 4 plus 2i times 4 plus 2i. Now we have to be able to get that far, and then we have to be able to distribute correctly, correct? Isn't that last one going to be the last distribution? I'm not going to go through all of it because we don't have time. Won't that last distribution be positive 4i squared? We're not going to forget the I squared, right? Okay. Okay, looking at this one, if I said solve, these I made up on the fly, so they're not going to come out very pretty. So just do the math and it'll be okay. But this one I just made up on the fly. The test will be a little better because we thought through it. So if I said solve, shouldn't we solve for x? So what do? We simplify the left, we simplify the right side of the equation, and then solve. So it's 2 times all that stuff. I've got to distribute that through correctly. Won't that be negative 6x? Then we've got to distribute that through minus 6 equals 10. Now it's just getting x alone. Well, we add 6, so we have negative 6x is equal to 16, right? Then divide by negative 6, divide by negative 6, isn't x alone. So that answer wasn't very pretty, but like I said, I made them up on the fly. So we would take our calculator, do 16 divided by negative 6, hit math, enter, enter to put it back in a simplified fraction, if we got fraction. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, on the test, if I gave you this one, it said solve for x. We always simplify the left, then the right, and then we'll solve for x. So it's negative 2 times that, not the 5 though, right? So that's going to be negative 2x's. Oh, we're not going to make the mistake of not distributing negative 2 here. So negative 8, correct? Plus 5 is equal to 4. Keep combining like terms over here. Isn't that negative 2x and then minus 3? Negative 8 plus 5. And that's equal to 4. We're just trying to get x alone. So when we add 3, Negative 2x is equal to 7. Divide by negative 2. Not a very pretty answer. Questions? Okay. If I said solve for x here, we would say, okay, I can solve for x. I'm going to distribute. So that's 2 minus 2x's, correct? Minus 8x minus 12, correct? Equals 2. Now, don't say, oh no, I don't know what to do. I have 2 x's. Combine like terms. So 2 minus 12. Okay, careful here. This is positive 2 minus 12, right? Negative 10. So we have negative 10. And then, don't we have negative 10 x's? Guys, negative 2 x's minus 8 x's. And that's equal to 2. Now solve for x. When we add 10, negative 10, add 10. So we have negative 10x is equal to 12. Divide by negative 10. And x is alone, correct? We would simplify our fraction. Like I said, these answers are going to come out pretty because I threw them together in 5 seconds. Okay, if I said solve for x. Solve for x. Okay, let's distribute here. So this would be negative 12. Negative 3 times negative x. What is that? Positive 3x is equal to x minus 4. Don't say, oh no, I don't know what to do. An x over here, an x over here. Yeah, you do. Can't you put those x's together? Yeah, we just got to use algebra to get there. So let's bring this x over. It's positive x, so let's subtract x. So we have negative 12 plus 2x equals negative 4. Now solve for x. When we add 12, so we have 2x is equal to 12 minus 4. And then we divide by 2, x is 4, correct? Does everybody see how I did that? Okay, sweet. I feel like we're going to do good on the test. If I said simplify, it looks really scary, but this is not properties of exponents. Here's why. You see how there's only numbers? This is order of operation. So let's do this one. We always do, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, parentheses first. So let's simplify in here. Isn't that 0? 0 to the 4th power, okay? Then inside here, addition and subtraction, we can just simplify. So 3 plus 1 is 4, 4 minus 2 is 2. Let's do under here, you simplify in parentheses first. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3, correct? Okay, so parentheses, we did please. Now it's excuse. Exponents come next. So we have 0 to the 4th power, which is 0. And then we're timesing, so we took care of that. Timesing 2. And on bottom, we take care of exponents first. Negative 3 squared. If you're going to type it in your calculator, you have to use parentheses. Negative 3 in parentheses squared, which is negative 3 times negative 3. Isn't that positive 9? Guys? Then minus 5. Now we've done exponents. Multiplication comes next. So on top, 0 times 2 is 0. On bottom, we have 9 minus 5, which is 4, correct? 0 divided by 4 is 0. Questions on how to do something like that? Okay. Okay, I feel like you're ready for the test. If I said simplify this, it's not solve. Do you see how there's not an equal sign? Remember how we've stressed that so much? Simplify, this doesn't have solve because it's not equal. There's not an equal sign. So we'll just combine like terms. So we distribute this through, that's negative 3x plus 3. We're going to be really careful here. Negative 2 times positive 2x is negative 4x. We're not going to make the sad mistake of not distributing that negative through. Negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4. Now don't you just combine like terms? Positive 3 minus 4 is negative 1. Negative 3x minus 4x's, don't just say 1 because there's a 3 and 4 there. Think. Negative 3 minus 4, negative 7x, correct? That would be where we're done? Okay. If I said factor out the GCF, what's the greatest thing in common? 2 and a x. And if there's a negative in front, don't we always factor out a negative with it? So you'd write negative 2x. Then go back, divide each term by what you divided out. Careful here. Negative 2 over negative 2 is 1, right? X over x is 1. So don't say that that divides and goes away. Doesn't it become a 1? Positive 4 divided by negative 2. Negative 2, correct? X squared over x. X on top, x on bottom, isn't that an x? And we factored out the GCF. We'd be done here. Okay, so if you have one that's harder like this one, what's the GCF? Factor out the GCF. What's in common? Look at the numbers. There's a 2 in common. X to the first, x squared. So there's at least one x, correct? A squared, a cubed. Can't we pull out at least 2 a's out of both? So we'll pull out a squared. B and b squared. So we'll pull out a b. So you write it, put your parentheses, go back and do 2x ab, divide by your GCF. Divide by 2x ab, divide it in sections. 2 over 2 is 1, x over x is 1. A squared over a to the first is a, correct? B over b is 1. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. X squared over x is x. A cubed over a is a what? Squared, right? 3 minus 1, guys. B squared over b is b, correct? Oh, wait, what did I miss here? Oh, this was a squared. This is a squared, no wonder. Okay. Let's revisit this. So a squared over a squared was 1. Wasn't it 1? 2 over 2 is 1, correct? X over x is 1. A squared over a squared is 1. B over b is 1. Then over here, we still have a negative 2. X squared divided by x is x. A cubed over a squared is a, and then b. Okay, that's much better. Sorry about that. Okay. Factor out the greatest common factor. Oh, we have 2 terms. What's in common? Straightforward, guys. What's in common? x minus 4, right? So we'll factor out x minus 4. We pulled out an x minus 4, correct? So then what was left? Divide by x minus 4, divide by x minus 4. What's left in the first term? 3. Those divide out plus x. You ready to take the test? Okay. Any questions on the test review? None? You're ready to take the test? Okay.